So when people talk about Paul Thomas Anderson's There Will Be Blood, they usually talk about an inciting incident where Paul approaches Daniel for the first time, trying to convince him to buy land so Daniel can drill for oil and Paul can build his dream church. But I would actually argue that there's an inciting incident that happens much earlier in the film. That's not only a great example of screenplay structure, but it also introduces us a little bit to our protagonist all at the same time. So in your typical screenplay, you would like to have your inciting incident around the 12 to 13 minute mark. And Paul Thomas Anderson does this almost precisely in the film. It's right at this time where we see that H.W.'s biological father is killed in an oil rigging accident. And then the very next thing that you see is Daniel Plainview just standing there awkwardly with this little baby. And everything up until that point has said that Daniel is not a family man. I mean, he's introduced to us literally scratching and clawing from the pits of the earth trying to rise to the top. So when he adopts this little boy, the audience roots for him. They want him to be successful as an oil man. But then while he does become successful, we see he deteriorates as a father to the point where he tells his adult son, "You were just a bastard in a basket." So the fact that this inciting incident not only plants a seed for the action that's about to come, but it also misleads the audience into thinking that they know who their protagonist is. It's just really masterfully done. And it just shows that an inciting incident isn't just starting the action of the movie, but it can be so many different things, and it can introduce you to your character, what's about to happen, and I think it's one of the best examples of an inciting incident in a contemporary film, as well as one of Paul Thomas Anderson's best films.
1,200 kilometers in diameter, bearing 24.41 degrees.
That's tracking right towards us.
What's the abort force?
7,500.
Begin abort procedure.
Let's wait it out.
Prep emergency departure.
One of the most extreme examples of a very fast inciting incident is from The Martian, written by Drew Goddard. And what's interesting about it is it's right off the top of the movie. A bunch of astronauts are walking on Mars, and a big solar wind comes up, and equipment starts to blow around. Watch out! Clobbers one of them, he goes flying. Everybody assumes he's dead. The astronauts take off without him. He's left abandoned on the moon. Well, it's a great inciting incident because we started the story with a bang. The only reason to put a scene, or any scene, in front of an inciting incident is to establish empathy with the protagonist and to establish the world we're living in. Well, in that case, a guy left alone on Mars, we're going to empathize with him no matter who he is, and it's Mars, so we know where that is. And so they correctly figured they would fill in the details of his life as the story went along, and that's exactly what happened, and it worked very well.
Another great example of an inciting incident is Walter White's cancer diagnosis in Breaking Bad. Walter White would never have done any of the things he did had he not been diagnosed with terminal cancer.
Mr. White. Mr. White?
Yes.
You understood what I've just said to you.
Yes. Lung cancer. Inoperable.
He would have simply died in a year, taking his chemo and peeping away softly like the loser he was. But the cancer diagnosis literally kicks his butt and forces him to wake up to life and to become the mastermind criminal he becomes. A great inciting incident is the thing that kicks the hero's butt and forces him to change.
I just need to make sure you fully understand.
Best case scenario with chemo, I'll live maybe another couple of years. You've got mustard on your... Right there, you get mustard there. Right there.
And without it, you have no story.
I think the best example of an inciting incident comes from a movie, it's also my favorite movie, Tom Schulman's Dead Poets Society. And it's the scene where all the kids are sitting in class towards the beginning of the movie, obviously. And Robin Williams comes out of his back office, through the back corner, walks right past Ethan Hawke, Sean Leonard Scott, and starts whistling. And he whistles his way right out the door. And all the kids are kind of looking around like, what's going on? Who is this guy? They're anticipating this new English professor. And he says, well, come on. And so all the kids follow him out and they go to this bookcase. And they're looking at the old students from Helton Academy. And Robin Williams starts talking poetry to them. He asks them to read a passage of poetry. And then once he starts getting past the Walt Whitman and the ideas of the Romantics, he talks about carpe diem, which is seize the day. And what's so memorable and so important to an inciting incident like this is to embed the theme within the inciting incident itself. Because the inciting incident is meant to be the catalyst for change. It's the first real step that our heroes are going on to their journey.
Gather ye rosebuds while ye may, old time is still a-flying. And this same flower that smiles today, tomorrow will be dying.
Thank you, Mr. Pitts. Gather ye rosebuds while ye may. The Latin term for that sentiment is carpe diem. Now, who knows what that means?
Carpe diem. That's seize the day.
Very good, Mr.
Meeks.
Meeks. Another unusual name. Seize the day. Gather ye rosebuds while ye may. Why does the writer use these lines?
Because he's in a hurry.
No. Ding! Thank you for playing anyway. Because we are food for worms, lads. Because believe it or not, each and every one of us in this room is one day going to stop breathing, turn cold, and die. I'd like you to step forward over here and peruse some of the faces from the past. You've walked past them many times. I don't think you've really looked at them. They're not that different from you, are they? Same haircuts, full of hormones, just like you. Invincible, just like you feel. The world is their oyster. They believe they're destined for great things, just like many of you. Their eyes are full of hope, just like you. Did they wait until it was too late to make from their lives even one iota of what they were capable? Because you see, gentlemen, these boys are now fertilizing daffodils.
The whole point is to make it mean something to as many people as possible. And by implementing this technique that, honestly, other than us screenplay structure nerds, nobody's ever going to really know about, he's done that. And it's not going to get any loud applause or any praise, but it's tradecraft secrets like that that make our work that much more impactful.
What defines your personal signature?
It's okay. It's okay. You're just dreaming. You're dreaming.
It was me.
I know.
I'd like to talk about the first Hunger Games movie, which was released in 2012. The thing that's interesting about this movie, among many other effective techniques that are used in it, is that it has such a powerful inciting incident, the moment that gets the story underway. The filmmakers had to come up with a moment powerful enough to drive not just one movie, but 4.
The time has come for us to select one courageous young man and woman for the honor of representing District 12 in the 74th Annual Hunger Games.
We meet our protagonist, Katniss Everdeen, a rugged frontierswoman played by Jennifer Lawrence, and one of the key things we learn is that the most important thing to her is protecting her younger sister, Primrose.
It's your first year, Prim. Your name's only been in there once. They're not going to pick you.
Primrose, a pure and innocent character, is a metaphor for the people that the Capitol plays games with, hence the weight of the title.
As usual, ladies first.
Effie pulls from a bowl the name of Primrose Everdeen. Primrose, though just a very young child, steps forth with dignity and bravery, even adjusting her clothing, because she's going to face her fate with courage, the same characteristic she shares with her older sister. A lot of weight is put into that moment.
Prim!
It really sets up the pivotal section of the scene. What we gain from seeing what happens with Primrose is that she's not just a pure, generic innocent. She is, in fact, a person of great courage and character. She represents the people who are being abused by the Capitol. She is worth saving. She is worth protecting.
I volunteer as tribute. I believe we have a volunteer.
And then the final and most crucial element of the inciting incident occurs, and this is where everything comes together. Something very, very special happens. Effie introduces Katniss to the crowd, calls for applause. But instead of applause, each of them raises their hand in what we later learn is a rebel salute. This is a perfect visual symbol for what Katniss has just done, and in fact, it's what makes this inciting incident a microcosm for the whole movie. And that's something we can all strive for in our writing, to capture our movie in just a few moments.
3, 2, 1.
Make sure they remember you.